Friends, recently the Congress Party President Rahul Gandhi announced a minimum income guarantee scheme called Nyay. Through this scheme, he said that if Congress is elected to power, 20% of the Indian population which is in the below the poverty line category or 5 crore households will receive rupees 6,000 per month. Thereafter, there have been several versions of the scheme spoken by Rahul Gandhi and his colleagues in the party, which have been kept deliberately vague just to confuse people and also as an exit-come-escape strategy in case they fail in delivering their promises if they do come into power. As one would expect, there were questions even as soon as it was announced. Many people had demanded how the party was planning to fund such a large amount of money to pay the poor. The amount needed for this exercise, friends, is more than 3 lakh crores, which is more than 2% of our GDP. It has since been reported that Thomas Piketty, the world-famous French economist and an acclaimed author, advised Mr. Rahul Gandhi on the scheme. Mr. Piketty has denied advising Rahul in any direct way, but has welcomed the Nyay scheme. He wouldn't matter to us at all if he weren't a rabid Marxist. In fact, his most famous book, Capital in the 21st Century, is now considered to be next to Marx's Das Kapital. He fully believes in the redistribution of wealth. Apart from this, he is also a typical left globalist. Hence, a hardcore leftist advising Rahul on economic schemes should give us a warning and an indication of where the scheme would lead us. Consequently, there was a TV interview on Times Now with a US-based economist and scholar, Abhijit Banerjee, who was advising Rahul on the scheme. Interestingly, both Abhijit and Thomas Piketty worked together for an organization called World Inequality Database, and perhaps that's how Mr. Piketty came to get involved in making this scheme. Anyhow, Mr. Banerjee was very clear in his comments that he fully approved of Rahul's scheme. He also said that to make the scheme work, the country's inflation needs to be increased and that people need to be taxed more. He also said that to implement this scheme, other beneficiary schemes that are now providing aid to the poor and the farmers need to be thrown out.
Can this scheme be viable without increasing taxes for middle class?
No, but I think the economy is not viable without increasing taxes.
There are already 950 central sector and centrally sponsored sub-schemes accounting for 5% of GDP. Now, will Nyay have to subsume them?
Oh, I think it needs to. The fertilizer, water, power, these things are actually really not good for the economy. They're not good for efficiency. We need to replace them.
Now let us look at the implications of this proposed scheme. For the past 5 years, the Modi government has successfully managed to bring the inflation down. What was 10.1% during the Manmohan Singh government is now just 4.6%. thanks to the various steps that it successfully took. Hence, the vegetable, dal and other essential item prices that were skyrocketing regularly during the UPA 2 have been curtailed. If Rahul has his way, then this will not be the case. The inflation will again increase. Prices of all essential items will begin to skyrocket. In fact, Mr. Banerjee, the advisor of Rahul Gandhi, firmly believes that low inflation is bad and high inflation is good.
Really, given that we have stopped the inflation tax, we're really hurting. I think the UPA was maybe for good or better or worse, using the inflation tax heavily.
The immediate casualty of this scheme would be the middle class, friends. They will be taxed exorbitantly. Prices of all essential items would have skyrocketed, and there will be no relief in terms of subsidies as those schemes would have been scrapped. On top of this, one of the main advisors of Rahul Gandhi and a co-conspirator in the National Herald scam, Sam Pitroda, had called the middle class a selfish bunch of people who should be more tolerant of the higher taxes.
Taxes may go up a little bit, but I don't think that's a major issue. Let's not worry about that. Don't be selfish. Okay? Have a big heart.
Yeah. This is what you would say to the people of India, the middle class.
Absolutely.
Compare this to the Modi government, which acknowledged the role of middle class contribution in the economy of the country and rewarded them with subsidies. Does the middle class intend to go back to paying rupees 200 and 300 rupees for a kg of $2 tomato? Somebody mentioned that this was a Robin Hood scheme that loots from the middle class and gives it to the poor. But is it really? The poor may get paid rupees 6,000, But how will they be able to take advantage of that when all that money won't even cover the basic cost of their essential grocery needs, which would have catapulted? Whatever that is given to the poor by the right hand will be taken away by the left hand through inflation. Moreover, the farmers will lose most subsidies like the fertilizer subsidies, the irrigation subsidies. The Congress will also scrap the very successful Ayushman Bharat Yojana, where the poor and lower middle income citizens are able to get up to rupees 5 lakhs of free treatment in hospitals all across India. All that will be gone. So what will be the money that will remain with the poor? It is a well-known fact that most Christians and Muslims vote against the BJP and in most places vote for Congress or one of its allies. But it is also a fact that if they vote Congress to power, they would also be suffering like all others. They will also need to go through the high taxes, higher inflation. So irrespective of any caste or religion, this scheme will prove to be a disaster. The only people who will benefit from the scheme will be Rahul Gandhi, his party men, and the numerous intermediaries who will crawl out to again take this nation back into further pits of corruption. India won't be the first country to implement such a disaster scheme in the 21st century. Such a Nyay scheme was implemented in Venezuela too by Hugo Chavez. And the result of that is for everyone to see. Venezuela is an oil-rich country and today its people can't even buy toilet papers or even milk for their children with truckloads of money. In 2018, the inflation was at least 80,000% by one estimate. About 3 million Venezuelans have fled the country. The crisis is one of the worst to have happened in recent times. Should we let a similar situation happen in India? Not just financially, but politically, with so many enemy forces in and outside India, will we even bear a fraction of such a crisis? So it becomes all the more important to choose properly, whom to vote. Friends, vote wisely.